So we'll move on seamlessly then to the last presentation this morning, which is another double act from James Hargrave, who is Regional Operational Leakage Manager at Anglian, and Jamie Worthington, who is also from Anglian. He is Planned Works and Asset Health Manager, I guess. Doesn't say that, but I presume that that's the case. So welcome, gentlemen, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Well, hopefully the technology will work as seamlessly as it has for everybody else today. So, as you've said, we're going to be talking about the practical twin. And probably the best way to describe that is to give you a very quick overview of the journey we're going to hopefully take you on this morning, which I will wait for technology to catch up. We go into the next slide, trying to avoid the... as it says here, we're going to be talking to you today is about our vision of the model that sort of takes... We have two conflicting things in facing us in leakage and in any delivery in the water industry, and that is basically the societal demands on us. We're providing an essential service to people, and the money in the systems and the like that we've got available to meet those demands. So out of that, we're then going to explore what we call the practical twin. What does that look like? This idea of symbiosis between detection, repair, and maintenance. And then you know, we're going to give you an example of what that twin means, because so often we can have these nice pretty diagrams, these nice pretty words, but it's actually what we do, how we turn them into something that's really meaningful and something that is significantly changing. And with that, we'll finish off with an example of how these processes are programmed seamlessly. Fingers crossed, we will not talk too much about all of these things, just enough, and we will help Bob to keep to the really good timings we've had so far. So I'm going to start off without further ado with this, this diagram here. Now, as we've all been hearing this morning, a lot of this morning's been talking about all the climate change, the increased supply-demand challenges that we face. I'm looking outside my window right now. There's about 30 centimeters of snow on my garden. We've just had an extremely hot summer. 2018, we had the same sort of challenges. Our world is in crisis, and essentially to meet that incredible challenge that we have in the lead up to AMP7, the leakage team and the Plan Works and Asset Health team needed something that helped us to actually create a systemic change, not just words, not just an objective or a mission, but actually to structure ourselves slightly differently, work together in a different way, so that we actually didn't fall back into our comfort zone of what we've always done before. It'll be all right. We actually needed to almost make ourselves feel a little bit uncomfortable and to create around us that enabled it. So scratching around for various ideas, this is the model that we fell upon, which is known as the circular economy butterfly from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. What you've got here is our adaptation of that, and I'm going to apologize now. Down the left-hand side is a whole pile of management speak. Please ignore it in the principal side. I do apologize. It's a whole pile of words that essentially what they boil down to is this is a system of how we can work together within the two constraining aspects that we face. On the left-hand side, increasing societal demand. On the right-hand side, finite resources. There's only so much water. There's only so many chemicals. There's only so many droplets that we can put through a system. There's only so many pipes, so on and so forth. And also only so much money. So what we've developed here in front of you is essentially a system whereby instead of a linear race that goes from one side to the other, where we're always just striving to the finish line, what we actually do is we create a system where in ever decreasing circles, we work together and we hand a baton on it in a continual relay from one system to the next, ultimately always aiming as we go through the process to minimize the leakage. And I'm not just talking about leakage in water. I'm talking about the leakage in our process, leakage in time, leakage in money, leakage in people's well-being, because of all the difficult environments that we put them in, the stresses, the strains, but equally leakage in customer satisfaction. All of these things play together. And what we've got to do and what we've designed here is a model that starts to work together, where it's not about actually just handing it over or throwing the baton over the fence. It's making sure that each stage of them, each circle, ends up with a baton that is ready to plug into the next circle of refinement. So we're able to continually build on each other's good work that has always gone before. So when you start at the need identification through to your solution, through to your service provision, they're all working together, continually building on each other, using all the sustainable ideas that we've got that everybody lives by today: refurbishment, maintenance, prolonging life, identification of innovation, seamless experience. But, you know, as I said to you, that's a pretty picture, and those are just words, albeit convoluted on the left-hand side. But all of those principles all drive us to trying to create something that's meaningful and something that actually drives us to be structured and work together in a different way, as James is about to bring to life for you in a very real way.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jamie. So if we have a look at the model of our vision of what a practical twin is, there are a few things that we need to remain clearly focused on. The first being that the customer should be the start and the end of the journey, that the customer can be internal or external, and that effective planning and enablement sets the road to success in an efficient resolution. On the left-hand side, we start with early event notification. This could be an alarm or indeed a customer inquiry. In the world, we can define this as proactive or reactive. We then need to identify the problem so that the correct solution can be formed in advance. Given the world in which we operate, prioritization and expectation sets both urgency and level of service. In order to succeed in either, we need to assess resource capacity against demand. Communication, whilst cliche, is a critical step to ensuring the correct relevant information is available to those who need it early. And to plan and commit. The old adage that the best laid plans of mice and men suggests that no matter how well it's planned, something can always interrupt the outcome. Whilst agility is necessary in our work streams, it's important to plan and commit where possible without change. An efficient schedule is one that is pre-planned and executed as such. Innovation, technology and method development, on the other hand, does need to be agile and needs to be informed. Safety and efficiency are two of the big drivers for necessary innovation. And TOTEX, what is a long-term solution? Make the right decision now to avoid the wrong outcome later. Monitoring, we must make sure that we've resolved the issue and that the issue does not become recurring, and to be able to report, audit and confirm the benefits, and then update. As I said at the beginning, the journey starts with the customer and ends with the customer. We also need to ensure our systems are updated appropriately to ensure continuous improvement. So if we apply the practical twin model to one of our work streams, let's look at the life cycle of one of our advanced leakage sensor-driven leaks. Our early event notification in this case is driven by way of a sensor alarm. The alarm in itself only indicates a problem, and we then use systems and analysis to determine the leak location and make ready for investigation. Our solution can only be determined following an on-ground investigation to identify the failed asset and survey it for resolution. Leakage carries with it the obvious priority regarding water lost against impact. Setting the level of service early enables us to decide whether the repair or resolution should be part of an advanced sensor repair schedule, or indeed if it needs immediate repair in a more reactive response scenario. From a communication and information transfer perspective, we at Anglian use Oracle OFSC field tablets and Prime POI follow-up app. Any resulting move to work is then committed via the same scheduling system used for the repair planning. Innovation in this example is to, where possible, use a VAC-X solution, which is safer and, when planned effectively, more efficient. And TOTEX, at the on-ground investigation phase, we will have identified the resolution required, whether it's repair, replace or renew. We use our integrated leakage and pressure management system and SCADA telemetry to monitor that the solution delivered had the effect that we expected, and all costs associated with the job are accrued via a master work order in SAP through Oracle. From a customer communication perspective, we surface our updates to our In Your Area and self-serve customer portals. All reporting is automated through Power BI. So if we lay this journey out in front of us, the timeline looks something like this slide. Our call to action can be from a number of different sources, whether it be an alarm driven by technology, predictive modelling, a catastrophic failure, or preemptive preventative maintenance. The initial assessment is our time critical phase of the journey, an opportunity to triage, prioritise, define and assign. Throughout the journey, building in the capability for easy and where possible automatic updates to our systems and customers is key to ensuring a smooth handover. For our leakage teams, we then plan and schedule the appropriate resource requirements based on skill set and geographic location, and this is where we set our internal level of service, based on the priority, in this case, leak severity. Our initial response is a critical phase to ensure we identify the correct location of the leak or the issue and what requirements are there to be resolved. This includes on-ground survey and investigation, and any enablement steps needed to formulate a seamless transfer to the planning and repair phase. So the virtual baton is now handed over to Jamie and his team. So over to you, Jamie.
So one of the key things that we have with it, why it's called Plan Works and Asset Health as opposed to delivery, is because we pick up on all those assets walking hand in hand with James's team, so that when we pick up that baton, it isn't just a case of put the thing in the ground or fix it. It's actually about having a look at its long-term life cycle. How are we going to maintain it? How are we going to ensure that the asset health is improved by our intervention, or at least maintained and its life is made the most of it? So in terms of resolving it, we start to triage ourselves. Is it a repair? Is it a replace? Is it maintenance? Is it support? Do we need to escalate it? Has the problem become worse? And also, above all, CDM, safety. We're bringing in a number of innovations in this arena. So just like we're talking about technological and analytical innovations in leakage detection, we've got to drive the innovations in how we do things, how we safely execute what's been handed over to us. So, as James already mentioned, vacuum excavation, but marry that with long-handled tooling, keyhole excavation, and suddenly you start to get to a place where you don't have an operative in the hole while you're busy doing this. Safety becomes paramount. You then, through the safety, you drive a more efficient program. And one of the things that we're driving through this is also to create a production line. It sounds twee, but we want to make it, while it's an exciting job to do, we want to make the process of getting the job done as boring as possible, so that things come in, they get processed in a very efficient way, and they come out the other end. Critical to that, enabling, is making sure that we take the information that has been provided to us, as we said, ready, fit for purpose to proceed, and we can then pick up on our enabling works, permitting, scheduling, dispatching our resources, looking forward, working ahead, trying where we can to build on that program, working with our reactive colleagues. If we're in an area for 2 weeks, what other work have they got there? Can we help them with that? Can we bring that reality into a planned environment, making it safer, more efficient, more sustainable? We then confirm that we've actually done the work through Oracle, as we've been describing, on-site, tablets updated, photographs taken, geolocations applied. But also there's another element to this, and this is where the asset health comes in. As we're capturing that data, that helps us with pipe condition, helps us with system condition monitoring. We can begin to actually understand what is the state of the assets that we've just intervened with. That then can feed into our ongoing model updates, our ongoing updates of the likes of digital twins, or ultimately near real-time modeling when we can. Systems are updated, customers are updated, as automated as possible, trying to take some of that, the unnecessary human aspect through it. Then we can actually focus on the customers who need to be contacted. So we're looking at different ways that we can contact them. There'll be sometimes when we're out in the field, we'll be bringing a huge machine down the road, big vacuum excavator, yet there's no water flowing down the road. Why are we there? It's helping customers to understand why that might be the case. YouTube videos done through social media and the like to explain why we're doing things, and there it doesn't seem to be a problem, but actually this is a preemptive activity to help the customers and improve their understanding. Then finally, there's the loop backwards. Again, concentric circles. How do we make sure that we learn from each of those interventions that we undertake? Could we have done it better? Could our process be improved? And that goes all the way back to the very beginning, working with James and and the leakage team in this example, all the way through to the delivery teams. How do we continually look to optimize, to improve how we perform, to innovate from end to end in the whole sausage machine as it goes its way through that circular economy? With every concentric circle, how does it improve with every single intervention with both the system and our customers? Because the constraints on us and the demands on us are only going to get tighter. And the only way that we can actually stand up to those is not by putting one technology or one innovation ahead of the other, but actually bringing the two things together so that seamlessly we move from one end, the problem or something's been identified, through to actually the end of it where we're maintaining it, looking after it, and the system is running as usual. So that's a very brief run through of what we've been trying to create. And thank you very much for listening.
Well, thanks very much, James and Jamie, for your presentation, which is quite a different context to the sort of stuff we've heard so far this morning. So quite refreshing and quite innovative in itself. So, I mean, I think what you're basically saying here is that we need to look at different technologies in combination, and we need to see things in a holistic way to get the best benefits out of everything, particularly in leakage, where I guess in your case, it's getting very, very, you're one of the leaders in the industry, so leakage is getting much tougher in terms of making further progress. But what sort of benefits have you seen from this kind of holistic system that you've described?
So some of the biggest benefits that we've seen from this has been around carbon reduction. So what we've been able to do is in line with the company's aspirations in terms of the embodied carbon targets that we've got and the like, we've actually seen that we've been able to outperform the targets that we set ourselves, because what we've been doing is we've been looking at the end-to-end and how we influence the whole process, from how we promote a job, right the way through to its completion. And using things like vacuum excavation means that we've got smaller holes, less disruption to customers, reduction in TM, reduction in the permitting, and also reduction in our durations. We've improved the time, the ability to operate as well, using smaller vacuum excavators. And so as a result, we've reduced fatigue within our teams. So this process has meant that we've been able to batch up our working. We've been able to work more effectively for the customers, interrupting them less, but also there's been the reduction in leakage run times. There's the reduction in our ability to respond also to outbreaks. So because we've got this underlying proactive activity, we're able to respond to any outbreaks quite quickly. I don't know if James has anything to add to that from his front-end piece.
I think, sorry, James, carry on. It's all right, sorry.
No, it's okay, Bob, carry on.
I was going to say, I mean, I think, what you are doing here in a sort of holistic, sort of process-orientated way is a good, presents a parallel with what one of the challenges we're trying to do through innovation, whether it's in leakage or in other areas, which is to look at innovations that work together, in combination, rather than looking at individual pieces of kit or individual technologies, which are developed by different groups of people, possibly different manufacturers. So are there any parallels, from the experience you're having, albeit within one company? So it's, at least it's all together in one big company, but, spread geographically. Are there any lessons to learn from what you've done here to the general challenge of trying to get different technologies in combination and to get to, a 2 + 2 = 5 sort of outcome?
Yeah, I think there are some definite lessons learned, Bob. I think you have to tear up the rule book. And I think Alan has asked a question around people and process change, actually, and we'll probably come to that in a minute. But it doesn't matter what technology it is, if it's a noise logging sensor or if it's a pressure sensor, if it's NB-IoT, narrowband, Sigfox, LoRaWAN, doesn't matter what the platform is. The technology is there to do a specific job. If you don't then you know, look at the method and the process innovatively, and talk about your people and how the people that are there to actually deliver the work on the ground can work more innovatively, then you're only looking at it half cocked. So you can have all of the technology at the front end. I suppose it's like buying a brand new Tesla, has all of the gadgets, it does all of everything you need it to do, but if you haven't got a driver's license, or you don't know how to operate the vehicle, or the road isn't actually there to drive it on, doesn't work. The principle works, but actually in practicality it doesn't work. So I think what you've really got to do is take the technology side of things and understand that that is pure, you know, it's a pure form of something doing something. Factor in people and process. If you don't look at that innovatively, or even be prepared to literally throw out the rule book and start from scratch, then you are just bolting stuff on to an existing and aging both network, workforce, and, you know, we've always done it like that. Why should we change mentality?
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah, you absolutely rings true in so many areas of an industry that's been around 150 plus years, and you know, a lot of the technology is almost as old as that, actually, in some areas. A couple of questions have come up on the chat here. So yeah, Alan has talked about when you're implementing new processes and people issues, resistance, old ways, old dogs, new tricks, I suppose, is the old adage. I'm sure you've come across those sort of challenges, but any great ways of overcoming those?
Thank you, Alan. It's the age-old question, and it's the age-old challenge. And the answer is, yes, we have come across those, and we continue to work through them. What we found when one of the big steps that we took was within Planworks and Asset Health, we created an entirely integrated structure of partners and Anglian Water, where I've got the production team who deliver a lot of these things. They report into one of our partner managers. It's all best for task, and that was one of our big cultural shocks. The big thing that we learned was we did it in stages together with the team. So it was quite a bold thing. Often you go through like 7-step processes or all these other things, and you kind of do something and you go, ta-da, this is our... Where actually what we did was we endeavored, first of all, to get the teams to understand why, get them behind the outcomes we were trying to achieve, and get them to see what some of these things, get them excited about some of these things actually meant for them. And that was a learning that we got from our LIFE program, which is a health and safety cultural change program. And it was all around actually saying, what does this mean for me, and how does this relate to how I act, relate to how it impacts on the people around me? So if I'm down about this and I'm negative about this, this undermines what other people are trying to do, and therefore I undermine their ability to achieve. And then we as a team undermine. So there was a lot of legwork and a lot of difficulty working with teams. And you know what? We're still going through that. We still have pockets of this as we continue to add in new bits of change. But it is actually taking the time to try and understand why it is that they are feeling this way against that change. And what often comes up is it's the first reaction, which is fear. I'm uncertain. Is this going to affect my job? Is, this new piece of kit, this thing coming in, oh, that means more productive. That means you want to get rid of me. Well, actually, no, I want to do more leakage work. And the only way I can do that is because I need that machine and you working in a different way. And it's actually meeting people where they are and their fear. And that takes time, effort, which we're not comfortable with. It's the soft and what people call the pink and cuddly stuff, which as engineers and doers and constructors and everything else and data science, that's not our comfy place. But it is the place we have to go if we're going to affect this deep change.
So going to Daniel's question there, which is around cultural change, I think from my experience, Jamie, what you've just described is, fairly normal within a cultural change program, people's fear of the unknown and, helping them to understand what the future holds and, taking them through it. Would you say this is no different in terms of this particular challenge, or are there particular things that are different from any other cultural change?
there are some advantages here, and I'll hand it to you, and that is the way that society has changed, where it's become more aware of the climatic and the other challenges that we face, the climate crisis. And that's given us an anchor, I think, to affect to affect the change with maybe in a different way. And again, picking up James's point, tearing up the rule book a little bit about how we anchor our change, not around money efficiency, but actually look at the benefits of safety, the climate, etc. Sorry, James.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right, Jamie. And when you take, if you take an example of some of the things we did with the cultural change piece, change curve is, you know, if you do a big change all at once, the change curve takes this normal kind of journey, denial, and all of the other things that go with that. But actually, we haven't approached it with this. We need to change everything we're doing now to this approach. What we've done is we've trickle feed technology into the business as usual process, and we've brought people along with us on the journey. We've engaged with them, we've shown them the technology, and more importantly, we've fed back the results in a fashion that they can clearly see when it's working. There's no argument then as to whether it works or it doesn't. So rather than have this big change curve, what we have is incremental change now, trying to get people on board the train that is, if we carry on doing things we've always done in the way that we've always done them, we're never going to get any better results. And to just continually change in small increments. And that's, I think, helped us a lot. And it's testament to the culture of Anglian Water, actually, and some of the things and the major programs that go around in the background that help us support some of these change pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with all of that. So just to finish, James, Dean's asked a question there. Do you think this will help you react more quickly to future disruptors?
Thanks, Dean. I think the simple answer and the short answer is yes, because what we've created is an agile process. There might be some fixed points within that, but the next phase of what we're doing is going to be completely rewriting how we repair proactive leakage, and not just the proactive leakage work basket, but other things that we do, capital maintenance programs, capital investment and mains laying, small parcel investment, all within a kind of agile work basket environment. So when you get a disruptor, whether that be something that's driven by outside influences like COVID, workforce that hits the workforce potentially, or whether that's outbreak due to weather, we can move the workforce a lot more agile than what we're used to in the model that we're using now.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that was a fascinating session, Jamie and James, and I didn't even trip up on both of you having almost the same name, so I'm pleased about that. Thanks very much for that. Really enjoyed that, and quite a contrast from some of our earlier stuff as well. It's always good to have some seeing things from different angles, and the people angle is as critical as any in our sector, as everybody knows. So on behalf of everybody, thanks very much for that presentation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and a virtual round of applause from everybody as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thanks very much, guys.